Okay, welcome back everybody. This is part 2 of the LEM bar stool for Project 1 in Architecture 243. In section 1 we pretty much went over creating the majority of the chair itself, the seat, the chair rail, and we got started on the base but have not worked through the rest of the base itself. So if you're in section 2, we did get through some of the base but not the seat bracket. So this video will be a little bit of a review for you, but we're going to go ahead and model the rest of the base and the under bracket in this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my chair rail, and note that this little section here can be deleted as well. It does not need to be there. That's when we split the line or split the seat surface before we offset the seat surface. So what that did was it split this surface from this surface that was protruding, and then it also left this little bit that was split as well. And so I just went ahead and deleted that. So in class we talked about getting this line work across the center mark so that we could draw a 30-inch line from the base here of the seat, which is here, down, so that we could start creating our base for the seat itself. We ended up creating a 9-inch diameter circle, and then extruded basically with the extrude planar curve straight tool to create the initial base, and now there's a secondary base that's on top of that. That thickness was 0.25 of an inch. Now let's go ahead and create an additional curve using the center snap. We can hover over the top portion to snap to the center of the top plane there, and then we can set our diameter. If it says radius here, it'll be 5 inches, or if you click on, so if I click on radius, it says 5 inches. If I click on diameter, it says 10 inches. You have to manually put that in though, so I'm going to use the diameter of 10 inches if you haven't done that already. And it creates a 10-inch diameter circle, which then we can go ahead and extrude the planar curve straight, and we want to extrude it 1 inch. So that gives us a nice solid surface there. And let's just double check kind of with this that is indeed what we wanted to do. And let's move it behind our object here. Okay, well, it looks like maybe it should be more like 1/8 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch. So let's just go ahead and redraw those. So I'm going to delete all of that, and I'm going to go ahead and create a curve, circle, center radius, and I want my end snap on. I want to snap to the end of that line that we created. And again, I want a 9-inch radius, and then we can go ahead and create a solid extrude planar curve. And let's try a 1/8 inch. And that's starting to look a little better there. So let's create another curve. We're going to use the center snap. And we'll type in 10 inches and create the solid extrude planar curve straight. And we're going to try a 1/2 inch this time. And that looks to be about right. So we can go ahead then and fillet the edge, and we want to make sure that our radius is probably 0.25 of an inch, and we can select that top edge and hit enter and just put a slight curve on it. So the next phase here is to create a cylinder that extends up this line work, and in theory we could create a circle and then extrude it up, but we could also just go ahead and create a solid cylinder in its place. But first I need to know what the dimension is between here and here, and we never scaled, we never made this section to scale, so I'm going to go ahead and utilize, I'm going to move this forward, and I'm going to utilize the dimension linear tool. I'm going to go ahead and take off my end snaps and my center snaps, and I just want to more or less figure out the dimension between the base of this. Whoops, I should be doing this in my right side view. So let's right click to repeat the command. Holding the shift key, or use the ortho snap to get that straight, and we can see that that's roughly 20 inches. So now that we have that information, we can go ahead and create a cylinder. And we're going to put center point on again for the snaps, and we're going to snap to the center of this line. And from our drawing here we can see that we have 1 3/4 inch diameter, so we can just type in 1.75 and hit enter. And as we move this up, holding the shift and the right key to pan that in 3D, we can type in 20, and that gives us our 20 inches that we need. And while we're here, we can go ahead and fillet this edge as well, and let's go with the 0.25 of an inch and see what that looks like. It looks fairly good, so we're going to stick with that. And now we can go ahead and create an additional cylinder using my center snap again in my 3D view here. And we're going to switch over to the top view to define the radius, or I'm sorry, the diameter as 0.75 of an inch. And now we can just go ahead and in our right side view just get it so that that new cylinder is moving up into the chair itself. So now that we have the majority of the stand built, let's go ahead now and focus on the bracket that allows this thing to rest on that seat. And so from this photograph we can see kind of what's going on. We've got two rectangular elements here, and then another cylinder that it kind of just flows into those two rectangular elements, and then we have this cone-shaped object to do. So our first step though is to create these two rectangular structural pieces that support the chair itself. So we can do that. I'm going to turn my my chair rail back on so that I can see where I need to start and stop these chair supports here. Let's see if we can just thicken that surface up a bit. Go ahead and utilize the 1D scale here and see if that's going to work for us. Let's okay, so if you have a small seat from section 1 or a thin layer, it'll be okay. I think in section 2 we beefed that up a little bit. If we wanted to make that even thicker, we'd have to re-extrude this surface and use the surface offset tool and make that thicker. Gonna not go ahead and do that in this video, but I will move on to continuing with our creation of these guys here. So we're going to utilize our rectangular corner to corner and make sure we click rounded, and probably do 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and leave our radius at 1/8 of an inch. And I don't know, that's not doing it for me. I think maybe let's try 0.5 by an inch. I think looks a little bit better. I'm just going to rotate it in place here. And now we want to extrude this planar curve straight. And let's go over to our top view. I'm in wireframe in this view, make it a little bit easier to work. And I can go ahead and dimensionally scale or transform scale 1D this object. And shrink him down so that he's just within, so he's just touching basically the chair rail itself. And now I can go ahead and mirror him along this axis to create a second one. And so now they're evenly spaced between this. And we can go ahead and make sure that these are on their own layer. Let's go ahead and rename that layer to be the seat bracket. And that allows us to then create an additional cylinder starting at that end point. And we just want it to intrude a bit on those rectangular sleeves, except not do that. So let's try that one more time. Let's grab our solid and create a cylinder at that midpoint. I'm just taking off all my object snaps and my smart track so that I can get this to just be intersecting this thing a little bit without causing any hiccups there with the rest of the modeling object. And maybe it comes down 0.75 of an inch. And I went up 0.75 of an inch. So I need to go ahead and create that one more time. Put my end snap on. Now let's say negative 0.75 of an inch. It doesn't quite look like it's big enough. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this in 2 directions, just to make it a bit bigger. That looks about good. And we can utilize the truncated cone to create this cylinder here, or you could utilize 2 two circular line works and loft between them. I think I'm just going to utilize the truncated cone. And with my center snap-on, I'm going to center it to the center line here, and it looks like it's not quite as large as the other piece. And we're going to come down and that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to turn back on my chair rail and my seat and move this out of the way. Turn off my seat line work, and let's move this line work to the seat line work as well. And go ahead and delete that dimension. And there you go. We've modeled the LEM chair stool completely. In class, we'll discuss how to apply materials to the various objects. And now that I'm looking at this, this is not quite drawn the way that I want it to be drawn. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate that and move him down a bit so that that starts to make some sense. There, that's looking a little better. Okay, that concludes the LEM bar stool tutorials. Hopefully everyone will have this modeled by the time they come into class on Tuesday, so that we can apply some materials to it and talk about rendering and setting up lights and things like that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class on Tuesday.